everyone, welcome to the WCS Premier League. We are in Season 3, the one last season before the Global Finals of 2015. I am joined by In Control and Huck as we decide who will be the one last champion. Should be an exciting season, gentlemen, and we are ready to get started with the first group. Of course, round of 32, kicking it off here. But before we move into all the matches, we want to make sure everyone's caught up to date on exactly what's going on at the WCS Premier League. Of course, we start with the round of 32 here in Burbank and also in Cologne in our studio out in Germany, going through 8 groups. We'll be doing A through D here in our studio out in California, and then E through H in Germany. Moving on, if you win in your groups, the first 2 places of each group will go to the round of 16, which will take in Poland, of course, all the way through the round of 8 and the bracket stage to determine who will be the next winner in Season 3, who will pick up that trophy one last time here in 2015. This all leads, of course, to lots of prize money and WCS points. It's pretty enticing, gentlemen.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the way they pay out these players, it's really, really nice. We're making jokes earlier, but I remember a time playing for the game where the grand prize was $2,000, and that's not even pictured here because you've already pocketed that money. And the WCS points, of course, earning you towards the greatest prize going to the big tournament, BlizzCon. It'd be amazing. Yeah,
of course, the Global Finals happening at BlizzCon. That's what everyone is vying for when they're playing in WCS. And, you know, that first prize could mean a lot for some of our players here. We're taking a look at that right now. Again, it's just the top 16 in the global rankings that will be making it to the Global Finals. And when we look at it, for our first 4 groups, we have Hydra and Polt already in the top 16. But after that, it's looking like a tough run for the remaining players. Of course, Hydra, I believe, 100% confirmed to be moving on to the Global Finals. Polt, more or less, pretty much at 99% confirmed, even if he isn't able to take that first prize this weekend. But for the other ones, I mean, we were talking about this earlier. Chris, Jadong already only at rank 37. He needs to win the whole thing to sit comfortably going into November.
And that's basically the only choice, and he's the closest. That isn't even to mention someone like Harstem.
It's desperation time. I mean, when you talk about WCS points, that is in relation to going to the big tournament BlizzCon. This is Season 3, so for a lot of these guys, maybe going to BlizzCon is not the big hope, but winning, placing really well, showing that you can still contest with these guys, don't underestimate that value because, man, you know, this is also the end of the year where, you know, not that we can go too much into this, but like contract talks start coming up. This is what people are going to remember you from for the end of the year. And then there's that Christmas break. So going out with a bang, winning, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's what really lasts, the lasting impression, right, at the end of the year 2015. And let's take a look at the groups, of course, how everything breaks down in the round of 32. As we were just mentioning, I mean, Jadong, Harstem, these guys, they need to fight through a long way to get to the very top. We'll be starting with Group A today. Harstem already there, as we mentioned. Polt, of course, a favorite for any season of the WCS Premier League, and going through all the way to Group H out in Germany, which will also have TLO, of course, home crowd there. That will be exciting. But Groups A through D should...
You just mentioned TLO like that, not Hitman. Literally the most exciting thing this entire WCS season.
Well, he's not playing here though, so you know what? It's not at my excitement level just yet. I won't be able to see him live. That's already the disappointment for me. Don't get to see him live and shake his hand and whatnot going forward. But as we were just talking about, you know, the other thing we should mention is that if you win, again, it's the WCS Premier League. I mean, you can say that you're a champion, and not that many people have been champions, because we've, of course, had some people like Polt who have won a couple of seasons in the past, taking that away from other players. So if you win here, even if you don't have a guaranteed spot in BlizzCon, you can go back home saying, you know what, I'm in the elite ranks of StarCraft II.
It is the tournament right now. Like, there's good and bad with that, but the good vastly outweighs the bad in that regard, in the sense that if you win WCS, that is a mark on your belt. Like, it carries on for years. You're like, oh, wow, you're a WCS champion. I mean, we're still talking about some of Polt's big wins a couple of years ago, you know?
Yeah, well, a win here for any foreigner. I mean, at WCS, a foreigner hasn't done that yet.
Lilbo came close.
He was pretty close.
It was a great finals last time, but yeah, Hydra was the dominant player, and we get to see him again here too. Hopefully he's in the same form.
Yeah, of course, Hydra came back after losing the finals in Season 1, so maybe Lilbo can repeat that in Season 3. Lots of exciting stuff coming up, ladies and gentlemen, but it all starts today with Group A, so let's take a look at our players. All right, Harstem, MajOr, Betrayus, and Polt in Group A. The first match is coming up shortly. We'll to review those. But let's look at the group as a whole right now. Obviously, Polt stands out as a huge favorite in this group. I mean, again, he's a multi-time champion in the WCS Premier League and overall a dominating player in StarCraft II.
He is the guy with the target on his back. You know, he had made the bold statement, which ended up not being possible, but he said, I'm going to win all 3 WCS seasons this year. But he had a good run. In fact, facing Harstem in that first round of the 16 in the finals, so that'll be an interesting potential rematch. But yeah, looking at this group, it's like, you know, it's make or break for a lot of these guys. Harstem, the joke is year of Harstem, but it's been fairly disappointing for a guy as good as he is. MajOr, also one of the kind of, you know, West Side really good players, but again, not really breaking out. It dates back to MLG where he was having decent runs, but never really capitalizing in like a top 4, top 3, or certainly even higher than that. And then Betrayus, he's taken time off, but, you know, he's still one of those dangerous Zergs that sometimes when players take a time off, they only get better at the game.
Yeah, I immediately think of Vortex. He was a player that he took time off, and then he did worse when he went full-time. But then when he went to school, he actually was a better player, which is, you know, an interesting thing. And I hope Betrayus will show that today.
Yeah, that's something to always take into account, of course. It's not always the same pattern that works for everyone, but our very first match will indeed be Harstem versus MajOr. And as you just mentioned, I mean, for both these guys, it kind of becomes a running joke in a long time coming for both of them, but it is a breakthrough, right? You want to get another win or at least, you know, a top 4 finish to really say it was a successful year. Otherwise, it's going to be a little rough. First, looking at MajOr, of course, having made it to the Premier League once again, has made all 3 seasons so far this year.
He's been charged with the job of being a potential Polt assassin. So I know he's playing Harstem in this first match, but it's kind of funny. Like, MajOr is one of those foreigners who actually in the TvT matchup in particular is very dangerous, so it's a little bit scary to see him in the same group as Polt, where Polt, you know, Rotterdam was talking about this earlier, if Polt's ever going to lose in a tournament, it's in the earlier rounds, actually, more often. It kind of gains power as we go on, and then we have the contemplative Harstem here, who is better than I think his results have shown.
He's just not consistent. Sometimes he shows great skill, and then he looks a little confused. It's like he wants to look at the camera, but he's not sure where the camera is exactly. But he has to really show consistency here, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the whole year it's been the talk as we look at the map picks and vetoes for both of these players. But Harstem saying, you know, year of Harstem, Season 2, kind of a crash and burn scenario for him. Coming back in Season 3, it's not... Group A actually shouldn't even be the biggest problem for him right now. His concern is, no matter the opponents, can I move on to the bracket stage, the round of 8 of the Premier League?
That is one of the things that makes the WCS so difficult, is that it's not even just like... you can play a really good player, but the expectation is to advance beyond 2 of those players, really, into advance. But here we're going to start with Coda. This is the tried and true map of all the map pool for us right now. This is your Lost Temple. We've had a few of these maps where, like, in the map pool, all the players just generally agree, if you're the better player, you should win on this map most of the time. And the numbers kind of back it up. It's a little bit skewed towards Terran in the PvT matchup, which is what we have. Harstem versus MajOr here, but otherwise fairly balanced. Yeah, should be a good way to test where these 2 players are as we kick things off. Again, WCS Premier League Season 3, ladies and gentlemen. It's the very first match as we return to see the whole run to that trophy at the very end in Poland. And for our very first match, it's going to be Nathanius and the return of good old Rotterdam to the United States.
It's been quite a year for our Dutch player, but here in Season 3, it's time to find out if he can get that finish to truly make it, you know, a year of Harstem to remember, Roddy.
I thought you were talking about me over here. You was like, it's been quite a year for... Oh, we're talking about Harstem. All right, I can live with that.
It's good to have you back, Kev.
All right, good. I've missed you, Nate.
Yeah.
We're going to make...
It's been good.
It's been good. It's going to make it awesome. It's been almost 5 months since I've been sitting next to my beloved Terran, and we've been casting a TVP together. Of course, the matchup that both of us probably love the most, at least when it comes to casting it together. Harstem versus MajOr should be a really good series. I'm always excited to cast my fellow Dutchie, and it's a pretty big series for Harstem because he has to kind of redeem himself after a rather disappointing Season 2.
Yeah, I mean, he's gotten some results this year so far, but you know, if it's going to be your year, you have to go all the way through the year. So Season 3, very important for this Dutch Protoss in the Northwest. He is Invasion Esports, Harstem.
Going up against, of course, our very own Mexican Terran player. Spawning in the right bottom side of Coda, it is, of course, MajOr, who is very pleased that he can finally play in the American studios. Major's always been quite vocal. He's like, I don't want to travel to Europe. I just want to play in North America. It's so much easier for me. It just takes me a couple hours to get there. First 2 seasons, of course, Major did play his round of 32 matches in Germany. It didn't go all that well for him. Major is a player, Nate, that if you tell me he's going to make it to the round of 32 3 times, I expect him to make it to the round of 16 at least twice. But he hasn't done it yet so far this year. He's done it twice in the past, but that is a long time ago. That's an interesting gateway over here by Harstem. So of course Major probably looking at this group being like, alright, Polt, well, Polt is always difficult, but if there's one player in WCS that has a pretty damn solid win ratio against Polt, it's Major, you know. Polt has won slightly more series than Major, but Major has taken a couple of big series of Polt as well. And Harstem and Petraeus are both very strong and very well respected players. But I know Major, and I know his mindset. He looks at his group thinking, I'm going to advance from it.
Yeah, for sure. Like Major, and I think even especially looking at Polt, when the TvT results, like in the WCS system, in the history of this tournament, even when it was just WCS America last year, Major took big series off players like Polt, off players like Tasia as well, and that is an area where Polt also showed a bit of weakness all throughout last year. And for this season, it does open up the door for some interesting things to happen, because Polt, you know, as strong as he's been this year, he has dropped series to less favored players like TLO in the round of 32 last season, for example.
I mean, of course, Polt comes into this group as the big favorite, but if there is one moment in general where Polt looks sometimes vulnerable, especially when it comes to playing against foreigners, it could very well be the round of 32. Harstem actually said this as well. I was on the plane, not next to him, but we chatted quite a bit at the airport, and while we were traveling with each other, he's like, well, you know, Harstem feels very confident too, by the way. He absolutely thinks he's going to make it out of this group. And he said, you know, Polt is good, but most of the time in the round of 32, it's not the same Polt as you see in the quarterfinals or the semifinals. So our Dutchie is very confident as well, and I really think that we can prepare ourselves for a pretty damn good series.
Yeah, there's a lot at stake, of course, a lot of prize money to be made, even if both of these players are, you know, not quite looking at BlizzCon anymore. They're trying to finish the year strong, get some big results in, and really, you know, get some positive energy going for next year. But so far in this game, we have a factory opening out of Major, so we're likely to see a bit of mind drop play, some early aggressive harass off 2 bases. It'll delay his later game tech like Stim, but he has the opportunity to do a lot of damage early on.
Yes, Harstem is not a player, kind of like how we saw Lilbao go against this multiple times in the previous season, where they often counter immediately as soon as, you know, they know they're going up against it. This is very well done, by the way. I'm not sure how Harstem sneaked this probe across the map, but that's a great scout. It's so nice for a Protoss to know whether there is Rex number 2 or even 3, or if it's going to be the factory follow-up. If it is going to be the factory follow-up, well, then you know what to do. Get your observers in the right position and at least get a couple of units defensively early on. But where I was going before, Harstem is not the type of Protoss that will immediately drop 2 more gateways, not make any probes, and try to 3-gate counter pressure just because he knows, you know, kill a mine, then counter attack immediately and try to win. He doesn't really play like this. Harstem is more of the slow and steady, wins the rape type of Protoss. Yeah,
he plays very straight up style of Protoss in general, I would say. And Major doesn't really mix things up too much. He'll open with aggressive builds, but he's not quite your, you know, like all-in-y type guy. Not really the one that you look to be seen do anything crazy like a 2-Rax against Protoss or anything like that. So that being said, we have 2 Widow Mines coming out, and I was looking to see Starport, but Roddy is kind of mixing things up. Very fast third command center. This is like kind of almost like a bait play because he got scouted, I think.
Yeah, that could very well be, and that's very smart play actually by Major. I like it a lot, Nate, and this is something I spoke a little bit with Harstem about as well. Harstem and we were discussing a little bit of, you know, when it comes to PvT, what do you like to play against, what do you don't like to play against, and he said one of the Terrans I personally don't like playing against is our very own friend Benjamin Baker, also known as the Muslim. He's like, because he goes triple CC so frequently, but if you don't scout it early enough, you know, you just try to play a straight up game and then suddenly they have overwhelming amounts of bio. While if you do know that they're playing like that, you can just 2-base all in, you can just pretty much kill them immediately. But if you scout it too late and you can't all in anymore, well, then Terran is going to have way more units than they normally have, and it can be very difficult as a Protoss.
Yeah, and Major's actually taken a pretty interesting approach to dealing with all of this. So he didn't take a second gas in his main. He's very limited in terms of gas income, but he's going for a quick siege tank to help solidify his defenses, because he knows that even though this isn't a mine drop play, he still delayed his stim a lot. So the Siege Tank gives him the defense that he needs to hold things together in the early game. It's you know, it's the linchpin keeping it all together.
Like, so far, not a whole lot is happening in this game, and if you don't play Terran or Protoss, you probably look at this as Zerg players like, well, you know, why is this so interesting? There's not a whole lot happening, but actually a very unique build order so far from both players. Major squeezing in the tank, going for the triple CC is not the standard in this matchup. It's not the norm. He's going to have a great economy, but he is going to be rather vulnerable. While Harstem on the other side of the map has opened up with that Warp Prism.
Is he?
Yeah, I think he's going to go for a little bit of Colossus drop.
We're going to see a Colossus drop. All right, good way to start the day. I'll be honest, Kev, I wasn't expecting this.
I'm a little bit sad that he didn't open up with Warp Prism speed. I kind of feel that's how Puck used to do it. Of course, very well known for his Colossus drop micro. And I kind of think opening up with Prism speed is maybe a little bit better. But oh my god, imagine if the Prism flies over the Widow Mine, Nate. It's not going to happen.
Be, you know, I think even still, very important, he has to be out of the vision so we can see.
Yeah.
Does not know about this Warp Prism crossing the map. That's very important for Harstem. You can't really do stuff like this and get away with it if it's scouted early on. He's adding a lot of gateways behind this too, and no forges. So Harstem looks like he's gearing up to make a big aggressive play behind this. This reminds me a lot of how MC was playing against MMA in their Europe finals about a year ago. Just Colossus drop into like 3-4 Colossus push.
Yep, one of the other Protosses did this as well. BlizzCon who went up in that crazy series? Oh, Classic did it. Classic did this build.
Did it against Polt.
Yeah, against Polt in the round of 16. That was a great series. But this also kind of goes to show what Harstem was talking about with me. It's like, well, if I see they go 3CC, I'm just going to go for a big 2-base all-in. You know, if you try to play this straight up, they're just going to have so much bio in a certain phase in a game, and it's going to be extremely difficult for you as a Protoss to position your units in the right place pretty much all the time. This Warp Prism hasn't really done anything yet. He has to be very careful. I hope that he sees that mine. I don't think he saw it. Oh my god, okay.
Hits the Warp Prism. It's not dead, but very easily could be killed. These two medevacs fly over the Stalkers that are approaching. One of them gets picked off, but these Stalkers have a hard time fighting by themselves.
Yep, there is one Colossus though. Don't lose that Colossus, Harstem. You could pick it up with the other Warp Prism.
Nice
Some cute play, yeah, very cute play. And this actually hurts Major a lot already.
You really can't afford to lose those units. That Siege Tank will be not really that great at defending against this. Those Colossi are big. You're not splashing multiple of them at a time. This is a very tough push to hold. I mean, Stim is ready, but the bunkers are not. SCVs come off the line trying to hold this, and Harstem can get a very quick game number 1 here.
Yeah, there isn't just a whole lot of bio to work with for Major. Very quick, very strong attack over here for Harstem as he gets through most of the SCVs. Colossus have to stay alive though at all costs, and that's a good force field, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, this was just very well thought out by Harstem. Great build order that dealt very, very well with Major's greedy opening. You know, his build was a bit of an in-betweener, and that's okay, but only if you're able to catch somebody off guard with it. And Harstem, he scouted, he saw what he needed to. He said, okay, no mine drop came. You must assume it's doing something cheeky. And great pickups on these Colossi to keep them alive versus the Vikings.
Yep, just look at the HP of these Colossus. All 3 of them are in yellow or orange HP, but all 3 of them are still alive. Like, I know this looks like this is extremely one-sided, but if those Colossus would have gone down, just Stalkers have such a hard time dealing with a couple of Widow Mines and a few Marauders. Harstem could have actually still lost this. If he would have lost all his Colossus, ends up losing 2 of them.
Those Widow Mines, there's no observer with this force. So Harstem's actually having a really hard time breaking Major, who is dropping his mules presently at that 3rd base.
Yeah, Harstem has to be very careful. He has to finish this soon, but is there really no observer on the map?
I mean, a Zealot or 2.
There he has 2 observers.
Wait, it's even close by.
Yeah, it's so close.
No.
Harstem, okay, he's still in a good position.
He has another one coming. I mean, he should still be able to do it, but
if he loses
things a lot harder for himself.
If he loses the Colossus, though, then it's a completely different ball game. He's still up 25 supply, but 18 of that is in workers. But the fact that he's up 18 workers doesn't necessarily mean that he's mining more money, because he's not, you know, with 3 orbital commands.
Attacking up that ramp into Widow Mines was not the best move he made.
There goes one observer, Nate. The other observer is still there, but I think Harstem forgot about it, and I don't think Harstem uses F2. We've seen that in the past, in the previous game of WCS Season 2, or Home Surrey Cup. I think it was Home Surrey Cup, where he had a mothership core, but he didn't know he had a mothership core. He never pressed F2, so he ended up losing it. So I don't think he's even aware of that observer.
Yeah, this is a pretty tense moment. Killing this command center is very important, though. This was a big part of the early in-game investments that Major made. If he survived this push with it, it would have been nice, but now he's going to come down. He's going to fight this army. That Colossus is picked off.
Oh,
is there enough gateway force here to actually win this game, though?
This gateway force is pretty weak. Like, we're looking at unupgraded Zealots and Stalkers. I know there is 63, 71 armies play right now for the Protoss, but this army of MajOr, if he has one more matter fact, I actually think it's stronger. MajOr might be able to make an... Okay, there's one more Colossus now. That changes everything.
Yeah, it's that one Colossus. All these units will clump up trying to chase this army down, and those Vikings are also landed, so the probe gets sent forward actually to try to tank the Widowmine shot. The Zealots come up. There's the force fields. SCVs get pulled. Command Center lifts off to try to get around those force fields, but this Colossus holding the back line of this army should be enough with the spread to take him out. GG is called, and Harstem picks up game number 1.
Wow, that was a great decision by Harstem to rally one more Colossus across the map, because without that Colossus, with 70 army supply of unupgraded units, I think you will lose against 55 supply of stimmed bio. Like, the amount of micro potential MajOr has on that moment, that is insane, and there isn't just a whole lot of high DPS in that Protoss army left. So MajOr almost made a remarkable hold there against 3 Colossus very early on, but in the end it wasn't enough as Harstem picks up the first game in this series. Did you know that Harstem has never defeated MajOr in the best of 3?
He's never actually beaten MajOr before.
No. Well, they only played 3 times, and most of it was in 2014, and I do feel that Harstem has become stronger over time, so it's not a massive statistic, but 3-0 in series so far between these 2 players. So if Harstem picks this one up, that would be his first official victory over MajOr.
Yeah, that'd be nice. You know, last time we had Harstem here was last season, and he managed to, when he did advance around the 16, you know, he came out. He was like half confident, half really nervous because it was still a tough group for him. But advancing again, I'm very excited. Would be to hear what he would have to say. You know, being able to come back, make a repeat, and that's what we're talking about with trying to finish the year strong, because MajOr usually does quite well for himself without the offline tournaments. He's not really known for going to a lot of these, you know, offline places. He usually plays a lot from home. So this is more of like an unusual thing for him, but Harstem really wants to be winning these offline matches.
Yep, and it's a funny year for Harstem. Like I said, a rather disappointing Season 2, but it wasn't so much that the Season 2 was disappointing, because he made it through the round of 32, made it into the round of 16, and that's great on its own. But the moment you go all the way to Canada and then you go 0-2-0-2 in your round of 16, it still feels like a disappointment. You know, if you would have played a great round of 16, let's say win the first series, lose the second series 1-2, and then maybe lose the decider 1-2, you're probably looking at Season 2 as like, well, you know, I gave it my all, it was pretty alright. Nobody wants to fly to Canada to go 0-2-0-2, even though Canada is pretty awesome. But as a player, you know,
Toronto's a nice city, but if you go there to play StarCraft, you want to win.
Exactly.
Right.
And right after that, you know, 3 days later, 4 days later, he came over to Krefeld in Germany to participate in Homesteader Cup. Again, he went 0-2-0-2. Like a player like Harstem going 0-8 in maps in 2 pretty big tournaments in a row, that doesn't feel nice. But since then, he's already kind of redeemed himself a little bit, you know, re-qualified for Season 3, actually made it to the MSI tournament as well through the European qualifier, defeated Marine Lord 2-1, one of the absolute best Terrans in Europe, and was also able to defeat Lilbao, the other Frenchie, the runner-up of Season 2 in a PvP series. So Harstem shown us that, you know, yes, he had 2 tournaments that didn't really go his way, he still got it.
Yeah, I mean, and especially against the Frenchies, Roddy. They've been taking over that European StarCraft scene in 2015. But we are loaded in to map number 2, ladies and gentlemen. We're playing this one out on Cactus Valley. We have cross positions. And in the top left, we have MajOr representing Mexico, coming in down 0-1 against his Dutch opponent. There's little ways to recover, of course, if he tries anything cheeky. He is up against Harstem from Team Invasion.
Yeah, I really like the approach that Harstem had in the previous game. I don't think that was his plan all along. It could have been, though, because he did already make the Warp Prism very early on. So maybe this was his plan all along. But especially the fact that MajOr went up to 3 command centers so quickly. Harstem's first big attack hits right before MajOr can truly benefit from all the extra economy he's going to get from that command center. Yeah. Up to that point, it's more of a burden. It's slowing his production down. But if Harstem would have waited 1 or 2 more minutes, then suddenly MajOr has way more units than Terran has. Normally in that phase in the game, if they would have just opened up with 2 command centers and going 3 Rex.
I wanted to ask you, because I feel like as a Protoss player, if you see that the Terran is opening with gas, you know that the stim is always going to be late. Is a Warp Prism ever really a bad move in that position?
Well, it's not necessarily bad. The only downside is that sometimes some Terrans are very good with their aggression and they keep their mines alive. You know, they drop the mines, they fly in, they fly out again, then they have Marine, and then sometimes they have a follow-up aggression. I think about my Dutch Terran, Uthermal, that I actually think is very good in keeping his first drops alive and keeping up the aggression. And then as a Protoss, you often only have very few units to work with because you're getting observers, you know, you're relying on photon overcharge a little bit. If you then also invest in a Warp Prism, like, that's great as soon as you survive at home. As long as you don't take too much economic damage, it's a great decision, but it is a little bit risky because you don't have too many units to work with.
I think that's a pretty fair point. As a Terran player, I usually feel like, you know, dealing with any type of counter aggression is very difficult when you go for those mine drops because you try to keep all your units out on the map, but, you know, having Stim does make things a little bit easier moving forward. We do have a fast command center from MajOr playing a very economic opening, and it will be a 2 barracks play. So no fast mine drops coming this game. Could still be another 3 command center build. We talk about the mine drops, but he kind of switched things up halfway through. But that was only, I think, because he was scouted. When we talk about Harstem's play, he's up 1-0. You know, he's the guy that, you know, as you said, comes into the group once, you know, expecting to advance. What does he do on, you know, from this position if he just wants to make sure everything goes smoothly? He doesn't need to risk it on another build like a Colossus drop, does he?
No, but cross-map Cactus Valley is also very hard to make strong 2-base timings because it's going to be quite easy for Terrans to counterattack while you're making your first big move out. And we saw that very well when Harstem went up against Polt, WCS Season 2, played on this map, went for a strong 2-base attack, which is not a surprise because as Protoss playing this map out can be very difficult. You know, the moment you're on 3 bases, you're already spread pretty thin. So that's why a lot of Protoss players like to go for a Stargate, sometimes open up with an Oracle, and then at least have 1 or 2 Phoenixes on patrol, just so you can chase down those medevacs. Because this is a very difficult map to play an extremely long game. You know, once you're on 4 bases and you're rich, okay, then it's fine. But it's that phase in between, let's say, 2 bases and completely stabilizing on 3 bases, where it can be rather difficult as a Protoss player, because you're going to need a lot of observers, or in this case, Phoenixes, to keep track of all those medevacs.
Yeah, that's a really important point to bring up. I'm looking at the way that MajOr is setting himself up, and I'm in love with this build order. So he got his 3rd barracks a little bit faster than the average command center first build, but what really matters is there's no gas. So he gets his 3rd command center very quickly, but by having the 3 barracks just that little bit much faster, he actually has enough Marine production to cover both of his mineral lines without investing in any other tech. And by the time, even though his Stim will be late, when it comes in, he'll have significantly more units than you otherwise normally would.
Yep, I'm not sure if he's expecting the Oracle. He has to be a little bit careful. I like that Harstem is rallying a Stalker across the map. Why do I like it, Nate? You know the answer. Because there's no bunker yet. And as long as there's no bunker, it's very annoying as a Terran to deal with this. I know a single star... Oh, no, he's going to set up a flank. He's going to bait him in. He's going to come from behind. That would be really sick. If MajOr is able to execute this the way I think, the Stalker will go all the way into the natural because there's no bunker. Now MajOr is coming from behind. That's really good. That's very well done.
If he gets this Stalker, that will be very nice, especially considering that Stargate could end up coming into play. The Oracle could actually mop up these Marines if that Stalker was able to do some damage to them, but no, it gets caught trying to run away. Just runs into the main base, so he knows that mineral line is exposed. He pulls the Marines away, a counter bait, and actually manages to get some SCVs here in the natural.
Really cool play on both sides here. Harstem making the best of that situation. He knows that Stalker is super dead, but it's still, you know, set up a little bit of an you know, an open area for that Oracle to fly in and do some economic damage. And now that Stalker, look at the second Stalker, he just runs by. I'm not sure if this is the greatest move of your second Stalker, but that first Stalker in the main base, you know, has been able to get a couple of SCVs here and there. And in
total, a brave boy sacrificing that Stalker for an extra SCV, but
10 workers ahead, but it is triple command center after all. Robotics bait down already. I wouldn't be surprised if Harstem goes for another very big 2-base Colossus deck.
There should be a Colossus on the map by the time Stim is done, so...
Yeah, and because of this opening and also because of this aggression from Harstem, it's going to take a long time for MajOr to get his factory and his starport up. Factory just now going down.
Very far away from having not just medevacs, but Vikings.
And so how are you going to counter, like, there's almost no way for MajOr to counterattack against a 2-base Protoss lane, which is something that a Terran would normally love to do. It's already very difficult when you're playing with 3 CCs this early on, but it's particularly difficult when you end up losing 10 SCVs and your gases are a little bit delayed and stuff. If I know Harstem, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him go for another big 2-base attack.
Yeah, as we can see, Harstem knows that that 3rd command center is there. He knows that everything is significantly delayed, especially since he didn't see a factory or starport when he was originally pushing in with that Stalker. Don't want to lose the Oracle, though. Always a good threat, because if you can pull any of those Marines into the main when you make your big push, you know, those are the types of things that really mess you up.
Yeah, it is nice for MajOr that he has a little bit of map control now, but there's just not a whole lot he can do anymore with these Marines. He knows there's going to be photon overcharge, he knows there will be a couple of gateway units waiting for him. Would perhaps love to intercept this Oracle somehow, somewhere in the middle of the map, but he's getting rather unfortunate with his Marine pathing.
But you're right on, Roddy. There is no forges once again. Bunch of gateways being added. This is looking like it's just going to be another big Colossus push, and I love it. I think it fits so well. The map is still big. There's a long way to go to get across. This scan, you know, does MajOr see what he needs to know that this is what's happening?
Complete.
Well, all the gateways are within the dotted circle, Nate, so there is a good chance that I think he knows, as he spotted most of those gates, and he also sees there's not an overwhelming amount of probes in the natural. 18 is a number that's, you know, very healthy, but if you see 24, 26, then it's like, all right, this Protoss is going up to 3 bases. I'm actually surprised that he already floats over this command center. Maybe he's just going to use to drop mules, but I wouldn't really try to saturate it with a whole lot of SCVs, because you know that most likely... This would be a great pickup, by the way, if he's able to get that pylon and the probe in the middle of the... Oh my god, they were so close! This is great, because this actually slows down Harstem push quite a bit. Very nice by MajOr. This is a massive pickup.
Denying this is really, really nice. That warp in field, you really need it to reinforce the attack and actually kill your opponent. Since he's still got another Colossus being rallied across, he has not built anything like a warp prism to reinforce like he had in the last map.
Yeah, I still don't really get why MajOr has SCVs over here on the low. Oh, he's gonna get the orb. No, no.
Oh, scans for
scan.
it. He
well
shoots,
done.
he scores.
Well done there. Excellent job. Now MajOr is going to evacuate those SCVs because he realized he had, you know, they were going to die anyway. He's going to leave the orbital there for now. A single bunker is nice, but shouldn't keep it alive for a whole long time because there's plenty of force fields to work with as well.
That Immortal in the back really helps to knock those few Marauders down in those bunkers.
This is just a very difficult hold once more for MajOr. He has a great economy. He's definitely out-mining Harstem, even when he's only mining off 2 mineral lines. But the biggest problem is just his starport was so late, so he doesn't have Vikings.
Oh, this next wave, this really makes the army so much more scary. Is there an observer to help with the mines? Not yet.
It's coming across the map now. These Stalkers could... Oh, no, they're not going to go for it because they don't have Blink. Good job there. Again, cancelling a pylon. That's really nice. But, you know, there's one more backup pylon. As a true Protoss. Always is a backup.
Got to daisy chain those pylons forward. Do not want to be left without a warp in. And picking off the bunker from the right side, using great positioning. Harstem really showing a lot of that confidence that you talked about coming in here. He recognized what he needed to do to win, and he has not been scared to make these bold decisions to stick with these big aggressive pushes.
And I don't mind it, you know, going up against 3 command centers can be very painful. And there's a reason why some of these builds have fallen a little bit out of fashion. The observer died, that's nice, because that was the only observer that was out on the map. There is still one bunker alive as well. This army from Harstem looks extremely scary, and it is, but it's a lot of Stalkers. Will MajOr? No, he doesn't really have any Vikings anymore.
Those time warps especially, keeping the bio from rushing forward, allows these Colossi to continue stampeding into the natural expansion of MajOr. The Widow Mines will detonate once again, but still, getting a good spread on this would be so difficult. Those Colossi are at full hit points, Roddy.
Yep, all 3 of them are so healthy. Getting a free medevac there, that's very nice too. Can just separate one Stalker from the pack, and that's exactly what Harstem does. You know, he took one for the team. A couple of these Stalkers are going to fall. One Colossus does fall, but MajOr needs to do more than that. Like you said, the other 2 are still completely full on HP, and Harstem again takes a commanding supply lead.
1 Viking remaining, the last one picked off. Zealots moving into the main base. Harstem looking to take a clean 2-0 to kick off Group A of the World Championship Series Season 3. GG.
Now, excellent start for our Dutch Protoss over here. Played very well. I felt a little bit sad for MajOr because he set up such a good bait early on, you know, with the Marines. That was a really cute play, and it kind of backfired because he couldn't kill the Stalker in time, and then it just opened up a window for the Oracle to do a lot of work. And, you know, Harstem just going with a very easy approach as Protoss player. It's like, oh, you want to go 3 CCs? Well, deal with my strong 2-base Colossus all in pretty much, you know. There are some weird scenarios where the game may transition into the next phase, but most of the time when you do this as a Protoss player, you know, you're going to ride with it, and you're going to ride it all the way out to the end.
Yeah, very tense situation to be put in as Harstem, forced to make those big decisions, but he did. He took the hard choices, and by sticking to that, you know, you see it, you know from all the games, all the practice you have, you're like, I know that I could just do a big 2-base push and kill 3 command centers, but sometimes you get a little bit nervous, you don't quite go for it, and that's where things really fall apart.
Yeah, especially when, if there's not too much on the line, then sometimes you're like, I don't really want to do that again. I don't really want to go for the strong 2-base attack. Let's just play it out. But it's really funny because we actually spoke about this in the play, and he's like, I just hate dealing with that, man. Like, they have so much more than they normally would have in a certain phase in the game. He's like, it's absolutely ridiculous. You need to kill 3-4 medevacs full of bio to stand a chance to go up to 3 bases. He's like, so if I see it, I'm just going to 2-base all in. That's pretty much the best thing you could do. And especially with the opening he had, with the Stalker distracting the Marines, the Oracle doing some economic damage. And because of all that chaos that's happening in Major's main base, the refineries are delayed, the factories even later. Normally as a Terran, you want to try to at least counterattack a little bit.
Yeah, because the biggest thing is you see that army coming across, you say to yourself, if I have 2 medevacs in his base, he needs to bring his mothership core home, that means no time warps, or he needs to bring his whole army back or recall, and that buys you enough time to land that 3rd command center, get a little bit more income, because he had his 4th and 5th barracks finishing too, but Harstem was just very, very precise in every movement that he made, especially running that Stalker into the main, as weird as it was. He knew that the factory was super late.
Yeah, he made the best of a dicey scenario there. Let's check in with Chobra, as I can't wait to see what the boys have to say about that series.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Of course, I mean, they broke it down quite well.
They went on for a while there, didn't they?
During the wrap-up of the match.
Just so much passion at that desk.
Highlighted all the details in that matchup. But of course, bottom line, Harstem moving onward. Result-wise, looking pretty good. But what do you guys think overall? How is Harstem looking right now? Because obviously he's the focus as the winner of that match.
I feel like he was a little sloppy, to be honest. Running that first Stalker in was obviously a conscious choice, but running in that second Stalker, it seems more like he was just sloppy, maybe a little stressed out, wasn't playing top-notch. I feel like if he plays the same game against Paul, he's going to run into a lot more trouble. Other than that, altogether, he's played decently. I think he made good choices. He didn't commit to forges. He didn't walk in the middle of the road. He said, you know what, I'm going to all in. I'm going to stick to it. There's no contingency plan here. That's just what I'm going to do. And, picking such a hard line choice in StarCraft II is the way to go, especially when you're playing at this level.
Yeah, his reads were good, and I like how the guys broke it down, joking aside. Dealing with 3 CC openings is really difficult. There's a lot of bio out there, and MajOr has fantastic macro, by the way. If that guy is able to get into the mid game, he is a really tough player to deal with because he'll produce so much and harass so well. So hopefully we'll see more of that because he's still got at least one more best 3 to go.
Right.
But yeah, Harstem looking good. And to Chris's point, I absolutely agree, but it is the first match of the day, so he played sloppy but was able to advance. That's like the ultimate scenario, because then you're like, okay, butterflies are out.
Yeah.
I feel good. I know that it's probably Polt coming up next as long as he takes care of business. And like Chris said, if he plays like this against Polt, probably not going to advance, or at least not past Polt. But if he can clean it up a little bit and give him a run for his money, it'll be a great match.
Yeah, obviously there's some other motivation there too. We talked about this earlier. A bit of a rematch coming in from Season 2 finals from Toronto, where Harstem wasn't able to perform that well against Polt. Like you said, I mean, that's a big point. Whenever you're on stage for anything, right, you always have to assume you can't always perform 100%. So if you get the mistakes out early, you're like, all right, that's my 1%. Here's my 99 left. For most likely, Polt, of course, could be Petraeus, so that match coming up. On the other side, let's talk quickly about MajOr before moving on. MajOr most likely looking at Petraeus there, and then maybe a rematch against Harstem or Polt going forward. Where do you see MajOr right now in Group A? How does he stack up against the rest after having seen him for Game 1?
I don't think he's in bad shape. I think anybody in this is thinking, all right, whoever's going to go up against Polt, theoretically, is just going to lose. And it's going to be between us 3 right now. So I think he's just thinking, you know what, I'm going to go up against another foreigner. I'm going to go against Petraeus next. It's not going to be such a big deal. And then I'll probably get my rematch versus Harstem. And I feel like he still has a really good shot. His PvT or his TVP is on point. He just needs to, play a little bit cleaner. MajOr's
in an okay spot. Yeah, I agree fully there. Like, even if in the worst case scenario for him and for a lot of players, let's say Polt does trip up and Harstem beats him, MajOr is one of those guys that is tooled to actually beat Polt and eliminate him in the round of 32, which would be a very big upset, but is not outside the realm. Like sometimes analyst desks and casters are like, what if? But in this case, what if? You know what I mean? What I'm saying? It's like actually possible. So he's in an okay spot. I think we're all discounting Petraeus, and maybe we'll look like ignorant slobs when like Petraeus comes out and just monster modes on people, but probably not. So for the most part, I do agree with Chris. I think it's down to, we say 3, but maybe it's really just the 2. Like maybe we see a rematch with Harstem and MajOr later.
Could be very well the case. Of course, right now we have to find out who's going to win the next one. It's going to be between Polt and Petraeus. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back after the break for game number 2.